stock. We got NBA Finals. Boston hangs an 18th banner. That's the most in the history of the NBA. Catherine Burkhoff is closing in on maybe qualifying for the Olympics. We have fights at the Paddlehead Stadium, Ogren Park, Allegiance Field on Saturday night. The Fusion Fight League back in Missoula. So we have a couple of the fighters from the main event coming on. Nate Lowe will take on AJ Hotchkins in this Fusion Fight League middleweight title fight. That'll be the headlining main event fight on Saturday night. A full card down there at Ogren Park, Allegiance Field. So we'll let you know a little bit more about that and get to know those fighters a little bit in hour number one. Also, Justin Engel was in studio earlier. We recorded a little bit early to accommodate his schedule. And he is a East Coast guy, so he is a Boston Celtics fan. He had some thoughts on the NBA Finals, not just the way it all went down, but what the title does or doesn't do for the NBA from a marketing and branding standpoint, the production value overall, what we're seeing, and just some thoughts on studio shows in general and studio shows comparing and contrasting the inside the NBA versus basically the rest of the way that the NBA presents itself during in-game coverage. And then we'll also hear from our good buddy Rajim Seabrook. We're going to hear from Rajim twice this week. He'll co-host with Andrew tomorrow, but he was in studio earlier today because there's a cool deal going on down at the Roxy Theater tonight at 7 p.m. Tomorrow is Juneteenth, and Rajim, who's part of the Montana Black Collective, is hosting a film screening as well as a discussion panel after the film screening is over. And then tomorrow, there's all sorts of fun stuff to do and a celebration going on down at Fort Missoula in congruence with Juneteenth. So if you want to head down to the Roxy tonight at 7 p.m. or you want to go celebrate Juneteenth tomorrow, that's certainly coming up. And Rajim will tell us more about all of it. The film tonight that's filming at the Roxy again, 7 p.m. For this film is, I'm trying to find it here. Well, we'll get back to you on that. But either way, it should be an interesting evening. Andrew, you got it.
Do the Right Thing.
Oh, Do the Right Thing, the Spike Lee movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Do the Right Thing, which is, I mean, it's got to be what now? 30-plus years old, right?
Yes.
Made a long time ago, one of the first things that sort of brought Spike Lee into the public consciousness. And as you'll hear from Rajim, it's sort of striking how the progress we have made and also the progress that maybe we haven't made, how a lot of this stuff remains unchanged, and that's why we promote discussions like this. So, yeah, that's right. Do the Right Thing came out in 1989, so 35 years ago. So that's screening at the Roxy tonight, and then there'll be a discussion panel afterwards, and then tomorrow down at Fort Missoula, the annual Juneteenth celebration presented by the Montana Black Collective. So happy to have Rajim in studio for the next 2 days here on ESPN Radio. If you're joining us on SWX Montana Television or on the ESPN MT app, or you're streaming on 1029ESPN.com, or you're listening on the Nuanez Now podcast, no matter how you're joining us, we really appreciate you for being here. The NBA Finals are in the books, and man, it's easy to be a prisoner of the moment, certainly. It's also easy to be salty when you lose your futures bet. I did lay a little money on the Dallas Mavericks. It's not because I didn't think the Celtics should be the favorites. I'm actually unsurprised the Celtics won. But if you're saying, okay, Coulter, well, why would you lay a futures bet on the Mavs to win? It's because they were the third steepest underdog in the history of the NBA Finals. And I talked coming into this thing that I didn't think that was true, only because I thought the Celtics, despite all their success, their unbelievable winning percentage, their margin of victory in those wins, their home record, their road record, their conglomeration of talent, I still thought that they leave something to be desired for a true great champion. And I thought because Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving were playing so well, because P.J. Washington and Derek Lively had given the Mavs such a boost, I thought the Mavs would at least push the Celtics. Well, they did not. The Mavs only won Game 4, and the Celtics shut it down pretty early in that game when it was very apparent that the Mavs were going to get their single victory in this series on their home court. But then after that, it was just all Celtics. I mean, last night was a coronation. The Celtics dismantled the Mavericks. I would say that, other than the lackluster effort by the Mavericks and the no-show by Kyrie Irving, probably the most surprising and probably most frustrating part of this series, and again, I have no rooting interest in this. I actually don't particularly like either of these teams. They're fine, whatever. I had the futures bet on the Mavs, I'll admit it, but also, I tell you this is how it works. If you make a futures bet because you like the odds, but then you watch the series, that's exactly what happened to me. I then watched game one and was like, oh, well, I got to bet the Celtics every game from now on. And that's what I did. So I bet the Celtics in all the games but game four, bet the Celtics last night. And, of course, then basically was able to hedge and even actually make more money than I would have made on the Mavs winning the futures bet. So such is the ride of sports betting. That's here nor there. The most disappointing part of this thing, though, was how little resistance the Dallas Mavericks gave to the Celtics. The Celtics did whatever they wanted, particularly defensively. There was no real adjustments made. It was basically as simple as this. If Luka Doncic wanted to touch the ball, he had to get the ball in the inbounds. He had to bring the ball up the court. If and when he did that, the Celtics did a great job of rotating a variety of defenders, spearheaded by Jaylen Brown, but also contributed by Derek White and Drew Holiday and even sometimes Jason Tatum. They came at Luka in waves. Sometimes they trapped him in the half court. If he didn't bring the ball up, Jaylen Brown did a phenomenal job of denying him the ball. There was a nice cut up in the game last night where they went to Jaylen Brown and Joe Missoula, the Celtics head coach, talking on the sidelines. And Jaylen Brown basically said to Missoula, he said, hey, exactly what I'm saying. He said, if Luka wants to touch the ball, he better bring the ball up the court. If he doesn't want to touch the ball, I'm not going to let him touch it. If he gets rid of it, he is not touching the ball again. So, and that was the key. So Luka played, he had a lot of points in this series. He played a lot of one-on-one. He didn't have a ton of assists. And then the other part of the game plan that was so good by the Celtics, but also so pathetic by the Mavs that they never adjusted out of it, is the Mavs, they have these rim-running bigs led by Lively. They have two great scoring guards that can score at all three levels in Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. And then to really be deadly, they need their role players like P.J. Washington, Derek Jones Jr., Max Kleba, all these guys. They need them to get and make easy open threes, particularly easy corner threes. How many corner threes did the Mavs shoot in this series? Looked like none compared to how many they shot against Minnesota. But that's what I mean in terms of the dictation by the Celtics. That was the game plan in game one. They just ramrodded the Celtics. And the Celtics ramrodded the Mavericks for the first 30 minutes of that game. And they never changed. There was no real adjustment out of that. You didn't like the Celtics did whatever they wanted from start to finish in this series. The Mavs, they were sort of just along for the ride, and I thought it was a frustrating deal. I think Joe Missoula has been criticized frequently for his lack of offensive aptitude and how clunky the Celtics look offensively. I still think that's fair, but I also think it doesn't matter because if you have two superstars that can create their own shot like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can, and you have guys that are willing, able, and also even engaged and sometimes even excited about being the third, fourth, and fifth best players, and those guys are all all-star level talents like Drew Holiday, Derek White, and when healthy, Kristaps Porzingis. Now, you have an NBA championship team. This Celtics team won 79 games, which is one of the top 10 totals in the history of the NBA when you include the regular season and the playoffs. The Celtics team went, I believe, 47-4 at home, which is one of the great records in the history of the league. They didn't lose a home playoff game. They only lost 3 playoff games total during this run to the title. Their average margin of victory ranks in the top 3 in the history of the NBA. They won more games by 20, 30, 40, and 50 points than any team in the history of the league. And yet I have a hard time, I hesitate a little bit to call them one of the greatest teams in the history of the league. Why is that? I do think that there's some ground to stand, and I do think historically this team will be remembered in a good light. But there's just so much weird stuff around this team, and I think so much of it is outside of their control. I think part of it is not having a headlining coach. You know, if Ime Doku or Doc Rivers or whoever, Steve Kerr, were the head coach of this team, I think we'd see him a little bit differently. I think not having a true alpha dog superstar influences the way that we think about him. But I also think that in the world of all the people that don't like the NBA, everybody listens to the show right now that's saying, who cares about the NBA? It's like watching paint dry. I hate the NBA. Part of the criticisms of the NBA are the prima donna superstars that don't want to play defense and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes I think that's unfounded and unfair, but if you're going to say that the reason you don't like the NBA is because of selfish superstars that get paid too much money and want to be ball hogs and won't sacrifice winning for contracts, then you can't also say that the Celtics are underwhelming, because this is a consummate team. They have beautiful team construction. When they play well, like when they go to their highest level, they absolutely look like an all-time great team. It's just that their highest level was very inconsistent in terms of the achievement of that. I also think it's an interesting deal having dual superstars, but not like a defined superstar. And there's more I want to say about this, but we'll get into it a little bit more with Justin Angle. But Andrew, now that this is all said and done, Andrew Houghton chiming in here on Nuanez Now. What's the first thing you land on now that the NBA Finals is over when it comes to both Boston and Dallas?
I think the one thing that ties both of them together is it's just another reminder that the process of winning an NBA championship is just that, right? It's a process, and it really is a journey, and you need to have time for these teams to fail and come back and try again and fail and grow closer and get better at playing with each other and figure out what works and what doesn't for you even to have a chance at a title. I mean, the last decade, 15 years of the NBA has been the super team era. How many of those super teams that we have watched come together in the offseason, whether in trades, in free agency, in Miami, in Brooklyn, in Phoenix this past year, how many of those teams have managed to win the NBA championship at the first time of asking? Even those super teams, even the LeBron James Heat,
sure,
you have to go through it. You have to lose.
Right.
You have to fail. And that is the way to do it. You get your core. They make a playoff run. They fail. They do it over and over. It happened with the Nuggets. We saw it happen even with the Steph Curry Warriors.
Yes,
Certainly,
yes.
The Giannis Antetokounmpo Milwaukee Bucks did it. The Boston Celtics had to go through 6 or 7 really bad, gut-wrenching playoff losses. They've lost in the NBA Finals. They've lost in the Eastern Conference Finals over and over. They got to the mountaintop, and now the Mavericks are in the middle of that process right now.
What? Andrew Houghton chiming in here on Nuanez Now. I guess not what. Why? Because I totally agree with you. This is the formula for the NBA. This was a little bit more of an elongated formula than most franchises go through. But part of that comes with a caveat because these guys just got to the NBA Finals a lot earlier on in their careers than most young cores do. Yet still, when the Nuggets come back and win the championship, when the Warriors or the Heat or whatever, it's spun as like this triumphant resurrection, this overcoming of adversity. We've been through the trials and the tribulations, and now we're come back out on top. It seems like almost no one is giving the Celtics team that benefit of the doubt. It seems like it's more like about time you won it. Now, how many are you going to win? Is that just a product of the here and now, or?
Yeah, that's our failing. That has nothing to do with this team, right? It has everything to do with all of the media narratives that have been swirling around this team.
Well, let's talk about the things that set this team apart, because I think you're exactly right, though, on this, right? People want to believe, okay, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal is a better top 3 than the Celtics have. But here's the problem with that theory. Bradley Beal isn't completely content and, in fact, thrilled to be the 3. Drew Holiday is one of the best threes, third best players in the history of the NBA, and that is proven. He's got titles in 2 different places with 2 different sets of superstars, And then if you throw in Derek White as your fourth guy, I mean, Derek White would be a top 2 player on what, a third of the league? Like, Derek White is a very good player. If he wants to go play for Charlotte or something, he is their best player.
Multiple teams have made playoff runs with Kristaps Porzingis as their second best player, right?
That's correct. And those guys are all willing to take a backseat to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And those two guys are also willing to have give and take with each other. So maybe we need to give the Celtics more credit for their ability to be sort of this consummate team in this world of super teams and sort of overinflated egos.
I think that is what is going to end up being the narrative once this all settles. I think that if we need to have a defining characteristic for every superstar, right? Mm-hmm. Like Nikola Jokic is incredible. You think Nikola Jokic, he can play word association, his incredible creativity, right? Giannis, just the overwhelming physical dominance. The image of Jason Tatum in people's minds, I think, after this series, as this settles down the rest of the summer, is going to be that he fostered that environment that you're talking about, that he gave everybody else space to play their games and to get some of the shine that he's entitled to as the superstar, as the best player on the team. And also, I think what Jason Tatum did really well in this series is he had a really great feel for the game and a feel for the moment, right? He knew exactly what needed to be done, even when he wasn't shooting it well. And that was such a great contrast to the other side of this series, right? Because the Mavs had none of that.
Absolutely. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, Andrew Houghton chiming in here. Our NBA playoffs and NBA Finals coverage all spring and summer long has been proudly presented by Sportsbet Montana. Unfortunately, there is no more basketball to bet on for several months, but
the Olympics, buddy.
The Olympics. Can you bet on the Olympics? Is that on sports bet machines now?
I assume so.
Everything is. Regardless, we still got one more hockey game at least, maybe a couple more hockey games. Plenty of baseball. Sportsbet Montana has kiosks all across the state of Montana. Visit Sportsbet Montana's website. Click on locations, and you will find a betting kiosk near you. Okay, last question for you on this. Maybe we'll get to some more stuff a little later on, but now that I guess a two-part. I actually have two more questions. One, if the Celtics had a different coach, would that influence the court of public opinion on the way that we think about them?
Yes.
Because Missoula's flawed, but he also is like this accidental coach, right? Like they had so much coaching tumult while they were trying to find the right voice for these guys. Then Ime Udoka got in all the trouble, and then it kind of just becomes Missoula's gig. And it seemed like he was just waiting. People were just waiting for him to fail so they could bring in somebody else, and then he just never did. Then just won 80 games instead.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, coaching is as much a cult of personality as, like, superstardom is, right? And a really interesting point. I mean, that's exactly the way that I would put it. I don't think anybody expected Joe Mazzulla to take this, or when we were talking about this team, Joe Mazzulla was always first or second on sort of the list of weaknesses about this team. Like, okay,
right,
this team won however, 67 games in the regular season.
64 games in the regular season.
64 games in the regular season. What's going to hold them back in the playoffs? Top of everybody's list was Joe Mazzulla, right? Yep. And he has such a unique background. I mean, who's the last guy who has that kind of, where he's only ever worked for the one organization? He's sort of bounced around. I mean, he was a D2 head coach.
Right.
Not that long ago. I mean,
he was a college player not that long ago. I don't even think he played in the NBA. That's also unique.
Yeah, I mean, who's the guy like that? He's not famous. I mean, it's like an Eric Spoelstra situation, except everybody could tell that Spoelstra was a great coach.
Well, and Spoelstra had the Godfather, Pat Riley, standing right next to him, be like, "This is my guy. I don't care what you think of him. This is my guy."
Yeah, Brad Stevens did the same for Missoula, though.
Yeah, but Brad Stevens isn't Pat Riley.
That is very true.
Okay, so last question then. How does this now, because the expectation and the narrative around the Celtics has been the exact same since these guys broke through and won the East several years ago, and they were in the conference finals over and over again. How does this championship then change the narrative around the lead figures as well as the franchise for Boston moving forward?
I think the same way that it does for every team, right? I mean, now they've certainly had to deal with this before because, as we mentioned, they've been jousting at this windmill for years and years and years, a half decade at least, before they won this title. But the expectations just get ratcheted up. It becomes a disappointment if they don't win. I mean, they're going to go into next season as the unquestioned favorite for the first time ever.
They were the betting favorite coming into this year, too, and they deserve credit for that, to be the number one preseason favorite and then to have the best record the league's seen in quite some time and then to run through the playoffs like they did. They deserve a lot of credit for that.
They do, but it's always different after you win the title.
No doubt.
And that's what it's going to be. I mean, I think that
it's a huge prove-it year for them because they're going to have to go through all these teams that they didn't have to go through.
Maybe.
Right? Maybe or maybe not. But, like, Giannis is going to have a comeback. You at least you'd think so.
Joel Embiid,
Jalen Brunson.
The Denver Nuggets didn't get a crack at them this year. Right. The Denver Nuggets want to get back to the top of the mountain. Yeah, that's definitely true. And the other thing with the Celtics is they're going to have everybody back. You've got everybody under contract. So suddenly, now if they don't win another couple in the next 5 years with this team, does it become a disappointment? And how does that pressure start to weigh on them, if they don't win the title next season? That'll be interesting to watch with this team. I don't think that this is a team, again, going back to what I said about Jason Tatum, that's going to be infected with the disease of more that we always talk about.
Yeah.
Speaking of Pat Riley, just the increased desire for attention and money and fame that comes with once you've won one title. I think they're going to be okay with that, but how does the pressure start to get to them now that the expectations are ratcheted up another level?
And I do think that they have a smaller window than maybe people think, only because Jason Tatum now being first-team All-NBA and just leading them on this run is going to get the Supermax. And now they have two guys on the Supermax. So they have their two guys locked in. Like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown will be playing together for the next 4 years for sure because Brown signed a 5-year deal last year. Tatum's about to get a 5-year deal. So they got 4 years of those guys together. But will they be able to afford to re-up Derek White? Will they be able to re-up Porzingis or Peyton Pritchard even, like guys like that?
So here's the biggest question for them. I thought that this NBA Finals was the best sustained stretch of basketball I've ever seen Jaylen Brown play.
Truth.
If he has another step in him, it doesn't really matter what you put, or it matters less what you're able to put around them, right? Jason Tatum's a first-team All-NBA guy. Jaylen Brown's been a borderline third-team guy.
And he just annihilated a guy that's first-team All-NBA guy in Luka Doncic in this series.
He played incredible this series. I mean, the defensive effort, the offensive responsibility that he took on, if he has that in him consistently over a full season, and he is suddenly now a consistent All-NBA guy, and I think he can be, then it starts mattering less how much money you have to fill out the roster around them, and that's a possibility too.
Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, much more NBA Finals talk coming up both today and tomorrow, but let's dive in to our Treasure State Stars. It's probably presented by Parkside Credit Union. Parkside Credit Union is a great place in western Montana to get a loan because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. Just a few Treasure State Stars for you. We'll get started with Catherine Burkhoff. She's leading the news around Montana because she's one step away from qualifying for the United States Olympic team. She had the second best time in the women's 100-meter backstroke semifinals last night. That means she's qualified for the finals. So Catherine Burkhoff and 7 other U.S. Olympic team hopefuls will swim tonight. The top 2 make the team. The third gets the alternate spot. Last Olympic trials back in 2021, Burkhoff got out-touched by 1/100th of a second, took 4th, and barely missed the Olympic squad. That was when she was still a teenager. Now, since then, she's won multiple college national championships in North Carolina State. She's won 10 world championship medals. She's a world-class swimmer, and now she's got the race of her lifetime to hopefully make the Olympic team in Paris. Burkhoff, of course, is a Missoula Hellgate alum and perhaps arguably the most decorated athlete in the history of Montana high school sports. She is certainly the most decorated swimmer in the history of Montana high school sports. So, like we always say, we only root for the good stories and all that, but I mean, you're just heartless if you're not rooting from the girl from Montana and the girl from Missoula to win, to advance and get on the United States Olympic team. The finals tonight, 6 p.m. She needs to be, again, one of the top 2 finishers in this final. And if she can, she'll be going to the Olympics in a couple months in Paris to represent the United States. Our Treasure State star number 2, Nicole Heverland. She is a whitefish product. She also just was named to the Olympic team. She's an alternate for the United States rugby team, but she's right there. So if there is any injuries, she could be on the sevens team for the United States Olympic rugby squad. They play July 28th through the 30th, so it remains to be seen if they have anybody incur any sort of injury. But there's 12 athletes on the squad and then 2 traveling reserves. So Nicole Heverland right there knocking on the door, being an Olympic rugby player. So congratulations to her. One thing we've touched on a little bit, but would like to spend just a second more talking about. The College National Finals Rodeo has been going on the last 6 days. Montana State certainly had some outstanding performances, led by Taylor Moakin. She is a senior barrel racer there at MSU, and she captured reserve national championship honors for the second straight year. So what that means is she was the runner-up in barrel racing for the second straight year. She won a national championship 3 years ago, so she has been in the top 2 at the College National Finals Rodeo for 3 years in a row. So very impressive finish to her career. Her Montana State teammate Wyatt Jensen won the short go in tie-down roping, and he finished 3rd overall in that event. Moakin, certainly one of the most accomplished barrel racers in the history of this state already. During her final week as a collegiate competitor, the Three Forks native posted 3 times below 14 seconds, which is sort of the gold standard of barrel racing in college rodeo. Jensen, his tie-down roping performances, they were almost nearly as effective. He's from Blackfoot, Idaho, but his time of 8.4 seconds in the short go is the fastest run of the week, vaulting him into 3rd in the average, and good performances overall by both the Montana State teams. The Bobcat women finished 4th in the CNFR team standings, while the men checked in at 11th. So Montana State Rodeo continues to be nationally elite, particularly on the women's side, and Taylor Moakin, certainly one of the great barrel racers that MSU has seen. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio. Our Treasure State Stars presented by Parkside Credit Union. One more from the East-West Shrine game. Cash Kokachia, he went nuts. He had 169 yards rushing on just 12 carries, scored a couple touchdowns, including a 57-yarder in the first quarter to really blow the game open. He's a Glacier product who's headed to the University of Montana, second-generation Grizz. His dad was an awesome player for the Grizz in the mid-1990s, was on the 95 national championship team, also was on the 96 team that went to the national championship game. So second generation of Gokachia coming up the pipe, and certainly he'll be one to watch moving forward. But he was the star and the most outstanding player of the 77th annual East-West Shrine game in Billings this last weekend. We're up against it, but on the other side, we got free Taglieri Deli. We're also going to tell you quite a bit about the main event happening down at the Missoula Paddlehead Stadium. It's not baseball, it's mixed martial arts. The middleweight title fight between Nate Lowe and AJ Hotchkins is our feature for the second half of hour number 1. We'll hear from Nate Lowe, then we'll hear from AJ Hotchkins. Fusion Fight League returns to Missoula. Some MMA coming at you next. Keep it right here. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Do you or your aspiring student need a convenient, affordable place to live while attending the University of Montana? Look no farther than Rome Student Housing. Located on Front Street, just a 10-minute walk from the UM campus and from downtown Missoula, Rome offers a variety of living options for UM students. High-speed Wi-Fi and a TV package with more than 100 channels, including the NFL Network, comes with your unit, and each unit has a full-size washer and dryer, plus its own full bathroom. Rome offers pet-friendly apartments, too. For more information, visit liveatrome.com.
Want to know what it means to bank like a local? Ask your neighbor, ask a business owner, ask a friend. They'll tell you they trust Farmer State Bank for personal, commercial, and mortgage banking, and so should you. Banking that fits your lifestyle wherever life takes you. So go ahead, bank like a local. Choose Farmer State Bank. 10 brick-and-mortar locations and online at farmersebank.com. An equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Attention fight fans. Fights Under the Lights is back at Ogren Park this Saturday night. 10 action-packed bouts of live MMA will go down starting at 7 p.m. The main event of the evening features former Oregon Duck linebacker A.J. Hotchkiss heading into enemy territory to take on the undefeated Nate Lowe of SBG Kalispell for the Fusion 185-pound title. Fights Under the Lights is going down this Saturday. Tickets will be available at the door or online through the Fusion Fight League Facebook page. This event is made possible by Grizzly Harley-Davidson, Greater Good Tactical, Botanical Superstore, and Northwest Pipe Fittings.
Come hit the links and support your Montana Grizzly hockey team at the 3rd Annual Grizz Hockey Golf Scramble on June 29th at the University of Montana Golf Course. A shotgun start is scheduled for 9 a.m. with a catered lunch to follow play at 2. The cost is only $350 per foursome, which includes greens fees, a cart, beverages, lunch, along with Grizz Hockey swag. Visit grizzhockey.com today to register your foursome. It's the 3rd Annual Grizz Hockey Golf Scramble, June 29th at the University Golf Course.
If you like a local establishment where you feel at home, whether it's your first visit or your 15th, then Red's Bar is your bar. With attending staff that's happy to pour you a drink and carry on a conversation, you can come to Red's with friends or just make them while you're there. Of course, Red's is going to have every MLB, NBA, NHL, and PGA event, game, and series all season long. Whatever sport you're into is on at Red's right now. Stop in and find out what the locals already know. Red's Bar, downtown at 217 Ryman, a Missoula institution.
Talking baseball with Jeff Safford, voice of the Missoula Paddleheads.
I want to touch on that division at length, the wild NL West. Obviously, with the Dodgers being the headline with all the money they spent, Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers surely are the favorites. Even with a team like the Diamondbacks sitting in that division with the run they made, the Dodgers still presumably the favorite. But it still should be a wild division.
Nuanez now, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
One streak was snapped and another carried on at the annual Montana-Wyoming All-Star Basketball Series over the weekend. Hello, I'm Andrew Houghton. The Montana boys had won 22 straight games against the All-Star team from Wyoming entering this year's series. But on Friday, Wyoming cruised to an 83-62 win in Gillette to snap that streak. On Saturday in Lockwood, the team from the Cowboy State proved it wasn't a fluke, winning a high-scoring game 94-85 to clinch its first sweep since 2011. Browning's Maurice Redhorn was the leading scorer for the Montana team in Friday's game with 12 points, while Frenchtown's Eli Quinn poured in 25 points in Saturday's game to lead the Treasure State. Montana still leads the all-time series 67-29. It was the opposite story in the girls' All-Star games, as Montana cruised to 2 wins to run its winning streak in the annual series to 15 games. Montana State commits Tegan Erickson of Saco Whitewater Hinsdale and Taylor Chirick of Roberts poured in 17 and 16 points respectively to lead the Montana All-Stars to a 90-68 victory on Friday. On Saturday, the team from the Treasure State was even more dominant, running away with a 76-35 win behind 14 points each from Chirick and Saco Whitewater Hinsdale's Paige Wasson. The Montana girls now lead the all-time series 41-13.
This ESPN MT Sports Center is brought to you by the King Ranch Golf Course.
1, 2, 3. Nuanez now on ESPN Radio.
That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight, losing my religion, trying to keep up with you, and I don't know if I can do it. Oh no, I've said too much. I haven't said enough.
We're at the height of baseball season, but there's also other fun events going on down there at Ogren Park Allegiance Field, the home of the Missoula Paddleheads, including an awesome night of MMA action on Saturday night presented by the Fight Fusion League. That's what we're going to talk about here for the ending part of hour number 1 on Nuanez Now. Appreciate you listening, no matter how you're tuning in, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, or the ESPN MT app. Maybe you're streaming on 1029 ESPN.com. Appreciate you for being here, no matter how you're tuning in. The main event Saturday night at the Fusion Fight League Fights Under the Lights event features a couple of the top middleweight contenders in the Fusion Fight League, including the man who joins us next, Nate the Northman Lowe. He is a 185-pounder. He's fighting out of Kalispell, and he's our guest right now here on Nuanez. Now, Nate, thanks so much for joining us, man. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
First of all, just give us a little bit about your background. You're from Montana, right? So just tell us just how you got into MMA initially.
Yeah, well, I graduated high school, went to the Marine Corps after high school, had a strong calling for combat, particularly combat sports, and got out of the Marine Corps, went to college. I played a little bit of football, but that didn't turn out. I turned, immediately to MMA and haven't looked back. It's been awesome. I truly feel like I'm called to this sport, and I just feel like I'm naturally drawn to it. So I love it.
I feel like you do have to have a natural draw to it to want to dedicate yourself to it and also to thrive in it. But that's amazing that you've been able to find this outlet. So what is it? I mean, what is it that helps you to sort of grow your love of the sport? What's got you hooked on mixed martial arts?
Well, for one, I mean, when you're in the cage, locked in there with another man trying to take your head off, you don't think about much else. Distractions from life and all your other worries go away. So it's a form of meditation for me. It's an outlet, like you said. It's a way to get into flow state and be in tune with yourself. That's why I do it, really. Second, it's fun. Nothing like a good adrenaline rush. I think it beats any other, extreme sport.
Nate Lowe joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. He's fighting in the main event of the Fights Under the Lights presented by Fusion Fight League coming up Saturday in Missoula at the Missoula Paddlehead Stadium. He's fighting A.J. Hotchkins, who will join us here on Nuanez Now coming up in about 15 minutes. Nate, when it comes to, you mentioned your military background, your football background. I know this has evolved a little bit because when MMA first sort of rose to prominence, it was kind of like, okay, you're a boxer or you're a wrestler or you're a karate guy or something, and then you have to learn the other skills. Now there's so much more resources to actually train in full mixed martial arts and learn a variety of different skills, whether it's on the mat, standing up, all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to your style of fighting, like what's sort of your baseline? What do you think are your strengths? And do you have sort of an entry point to combat sports, or is it just sort of you've been training in a variety of MMA disciplines across the board?
Yeah, I grew up wrestling through high school. Probably could have wrestled in college, but I had other plans. So that's probably my base, you could say. I think I'm a quick learner, and I've picked up other parts of the sport, like you mentioned. The striking and jiu-jitsu and other forms of grappling. So I think that I'm becoming more well-rounded. I don't like to just identify as a wrestler, although that is one of the most dominant bases you can have in the sport, for sure.
Oh, no doubt. My dad was an expert in Taekwondo, and he was sort of a little bit on the forefront. Didn't get a chance to ever do MMA. He always fought full contact in the Taekwondo sphere. But he used to always say, hey, I'll fight anybody standing up. Take me to the mat. Forget about it, man. I'm not fighting any wrestlers. So you're exactly right. Having a wrestling background certainly helps you. Nate Lowe joining us here on Nuanez Now. He's fighting in the main event under the lights at the Paddlehead Stadium on Saturday evening, Oregon Park at Allegiance Field here in Missoula. Being a Western Montana guy, this is probably an awesome opportunity for you, man. I know that you're a little bit young in the sport, but also you're getting to fight in a big venue for a big-time promotion, and I'm sure you'll have some folks there. So what's it mean to you? I mean, what do you think about this opportunity to fight in Western Montana?
Yeah, this is a huge opportunity, so close to home. I'm lucky to have, my family, my friends, all my fans there. I'm looking forward to putting on a show for a good crowd and, just soaking in the moment. I think it's awesome we get to fight outside in a baseball field, on one of the longest days of the year, and I'm just thrilled. I can't wait for Saturday.
When it comes to your opponent, what do you know? What can you tell us? And don't have to give too much away about the game plan, but certainly just what broadly do you hope to get done here on Saturday night?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been actually following AJ for over a year now. You know, he posts a lot of strength and conditioning content on his Instagram, and that's why I initially started following him. I know he's an athlete. I know he was a linebacker. You know, he's explosive. I think that it's a good matchup for me, and I'm looking forward to it. You know, like you said, I'm not going to give too much away about the game plan, but I think I'm going to decide where this fight goes on Saturday.
Nate Lowe here on Nuanez. Now, last thing for you then, man. What's it going to take to get it done in this main event?
You know, a lot of heart. The skills I know I have. There's no quit. Just heart, you know. That's all you can have out there. The hay's in the barn. The work's already done. You just got to go have fun and leave it all out there.
Well, best of luck. I know this is interesting. We never actually met each other, so we appreciate you for just calling in blind. But thanks so much. You got a great story, man, and we're wishing you the best of luck on Saturday night. Go get him. But thanks so much for spending some time here with us.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Nate Lowe, main event at the Fusion Fight League Fights Under the Lights at Ogren Park, Allegiance Field, the Missoula Paddlehead Stadium. That's the middleweight bout. His opponent, AJ Hopkins, is our guest on the other side. But before that, how about some free Tagliari Deli? We got it for you. Call right now, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Call number 4. We got $25 for you to Tagliari Deli. Maybe here's an idea. Go have some tag right there at the Sawmill District location. Right next is literally 1 block away from the Paddlehead Stadium. You win yourself a gift card. Go have some sandwiches. Go watch some MMA. Sounds like a pretty nice Saturday night to me. Call right now, 406-888-1029. We'll continue talking MMA fights under the lights at the Paddleheads Field on Saturday night. AJ Hopkins coming up next. He actually has a sort of vague connection to the state of Montana. We'll talk about that and more on the other side. Keep it right here. It's ESPN Radio.
The Missoula Broadcasting Company is accepting applications for a full-time advertising account executive who is dedicated, passionate, and ready to make an impact. Our locally owned and operated stations, the Trail 103.3, U1045, 105.9 Jack FM, and ESPN Missoula 102.9 are not just radio stations. They are vibrant communities that deliver exceptional results for our business partners. As a local broadcaster, we have a unique opportunity to connect with businesses with the community through the power of radio advertising. Help local businesses thrive while making a positive impact on the community we love. We believe in placing the needs of our clients above all else. You'll have the chance to build strong relationships and create real value for our advertising partners. We are committed to your success. With extensive training and continuous support, you'll have everything you need to thrive and grow your career. Join a team that's encouraging, collaborative, and just plain fun to work with. We celebrate each other's successes and work together towards common goals. If interested, contact us through our website at MissoulaBroadcasting.com.
I call myself a confident backseat driver. Mom, brakes, please.
Gotcha.
But I'm less confident in the economy.
Same here, buddy.
Thankfully, Les Schwab Tires helps make sure that our safety never takes a backseat, even when we're watching our wallets.
Roll into summer. Save up to $200 instantly on a wide selection of tires and wheels. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. Details at leschwab.com/sale.
Get ready, Montana. Place bets on your favorite teams and games, both collegiate and professional, with Sportsbet Montana. With over 500 locations statewide, it's never been easier to get in on the action. Choose from spreads, money lines, parlays, and more. Excitement? You bet. Action? You bet. Winning? You bet. Visit sportsbetmontana.com or download the app now. Sportsbet Montana, Montana's exclusive sportsbook.
The King Ranch Golf Course isn't just for golf enthusiasts. You're invited to host your next event at their spacious venue that offers picturesque Clark Fork River scenery, a dining room perfect for showers, birthday parties, reunions, or company parties. Planning a wedding? There's a large outdoor venue space and luxurious Airbnb Stonehouse for accommodations. For more information about leagues, season, or daily fees, or to reserve a beautiful venue, give the King Ranch Golf Course a call, 406-626-4000.
Join the Montana Black Collective Missoula and the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula for a community celebration at the 3rd annual Juneteenth holiday at Historic Fort Missoula Wednesday, June 19th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This celebration of freedom is free and open to the public, featuring guest speakers, music, art, and food. Juneteenth became a national holiday in 2021 and recognizes the end of slavery. Details at fortmissoula.org or montanablackcollective.org.
It's Nuanez now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
Welcome back to Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Congratulations to our winner of some free Taglieri Deli Tag Tuesday every Tuesday here on Nuanez Now. Appreciate Tag for their continued support of all things sports talk radio here in Missoula and around the state of Montana. Speaking of Missoula, football fans, won't be long until your Grizz take the field again. And the University of Montana football team wants you to be a part of every play. Season tickets are now on sale for Montana's 2024 season, featuring a program record 7 home games in addition to a more affordable per game rate compared to 2023. Season ticket holders also save more than 30% off of single game prices and get guaranteed access to home playoff games. Be another part of an exciting Grizz football season as Montana looks to defend its Big Sky Conference championship and make it back to the national championship game. Get your season tickets today at gogrizz.com/tickets. Saturday night in Missoula, MMA, some mixed martial arts presented by the Fusion Fight League descends upon the Missoula Paddlehead Stadium. And the main event is a middleweight fight featuring Nate Lowe, a young man out of Big Fork, Montana, fighting against AJ Hotchkins, who's our next guest here on Nuanez Now. He's originally from San Antonio. A guy with a cool backstory, which we'll get into in just a minute. He's fighting out of the Extreme Couture in Las Vegas, but a guy with a college football background, and this should be a heck of a middleweight championship fight on Saturday night down there at Ogren Park Allegiance Field. AJ, thanks so much for joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm great, brother. I appreciate you guys having me on your guys' platform, man. Thank you so much, brother. Of
course. This is actually sort of funny. So I've covered Big Sky Conference football going on now 18 years, and we cover recruiting a lot between our platform at Skyline Sports as well as ESPN Radio. And so when I was looking up your bio, I was looking for you on Twitter, and I found you, and I was like, oh, I already follow this guy. I wonder why. Then I realized it was because from back in your junior college days, when you were at Riverside Community College, you were getting recruited by some Big Sky Conference schools. I think you're maybe in the mix at Montana State a little bit. I think you had a teammate, Travis Johnson, that played down there at Riverside that then went up to MSU. So
you know what, man? It was actually it was at a high school. I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Got it.
And Justin Green, who I believe is coming to the fight, recruited me at fullback at a high school.
Fascinating. So okay, there it is.
Yeah, bro. So I've actually been to Missoula I love Missoula. I'm excited to come back. I took an official visit, and I think I even committed to the University of Montana, and then I ended up going junior college, and I blew up, and I ended up going to the University of Oregon. And but yeah, man, I love Missoula. I visited the University of Montana before, so man, I'm excited to get back out there.
There you go, a former Big Sky recruit here on the show. So tell us about that journey then, because like you said, you went to junior college, then your recruiting blew up. You became a 4-star recruit, went to the University of Oregon, had a great career there. So how did that experience, though, sort of set the table for this MMA career that you're embarking on now?
Man, just being experienced and, just being an athlete my entire life, a high-level athlete. And then, it makes the transition much smoother and easier, going from one high-level sport to, another in mixed martial arts. And there's a lot of crossover between MMA and football. I think they're both gladiator sports. And I played linebacker, so I played the defensive side of the ball. And I just think there's a lot of crossover, man. So, again, I'm excited to show everybody June 22nd out there in Missoula, and hopefully we get a big turnout. And we put on a great show for the fans and everybody that comes out, man. So I'm excited, man.
AJ Haskins joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. He is one of the two participants in the main event on Saturday night at Ogren Park, Allegiance Field, the Missoula Paddlehead Stadium. Paddlehead's out of town right now, so great use of the stadium. Should be a beautiful night. He's hoping for a beautiful night here in the Garden City. How would you describe this your style as a fighter then? I know a lot of guys have different baseline backgrounds. Sounds like your entry point's sort of football, but what else? What other sort of skills have you honed? What other sort of martial arts techniques have you picked up?
Oh man, I feel like I'm well rounded, man. Wherever the fight goes, I'm confident and I'm comfortable wherever the fight goes. I think that's one of the advantages in not having a mixed martial arts background or a martial arts background in general is that there's no I don't have anything to fall back on, So you see a lot of wrestlers, they get clipped with a big shot and they immediately they go to their wrestling. But, for me, I don't have a background. And so I consider myself well-rounded and really just an athlete, man, that can go in there and find a way to win. And so that's what I plan on doing June 22nd. And like I said, man, I'm excited to put on a show in front of hopefully a sold-out crowd. But yeah, as far as my style, we'll see. There's a lot of skill sets that I haven't gotten to show in the octagon quite yet, and maybe they'll come out June 22nd. But yeah, try not to give too much away. But I see myself as a well-rounded fighter that can do a little bit of everything, so I'm excited to show everybody this June 22nd.
Well, it's such an interesting avenue there because, like you said, a lot of times. Guys that have been wrestlers their whole lives, they got to learn how to stand up and strike. Guys that have been strikers their whole lives, they do not want to go to the mat and wrestle. It sounds like you sort of started with a blank slate, right? So you've been able to sort of build up all the skills across the board. So tell us just about the place you've been training at down there in Vegas and what they've done for you just in terms of accelerating your skills in this sport.
Actually, I'm out of El Paso, Texas.
Oh, got it. Okay.
El Paso, Texas. And, I'm training at, I train a little bit of everywhere, man, wherever I can find the best work. So, I have a wrestling room. I train with a bunch of college wrestlers, high-level high school wrestlers. I train jiu-jitsu at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. I train kickboxing at Elite Kickboxing. And, I box. I do a little bit of everything. That's what I'm saying, June 22nd, hopefully I'll get to show the diversity of my skill set. And yeah, like you hit on it, I feel like, when you grow up and you're a wrestler and that's your panic button. It's like panic wrestle, but for me, it's just about finding a way to win and really making my opponent uncomfortable. So, wherever I feel like I have an advantage, I'll try to exploit his weakness and play it to my advantage. So, and that's what I love, mixed martial arts and you just being a true competitor. And so, again, I'm excited to show everybody June 22nd. I hope we get a big turnout and they bring the energy. And I know it's a hometown guy. And, I'm from the Northwest, too. Like I said, I'm from Portland, Oregon. But, yeah, man, I'm just excited to be back up there, check out Montana, check out Missoula, jump in the water, and just enjoy myself on this fight week, so.
Well, it should be very fun. If you want to go to this thing, it's the undercard starts at 7 o'clock. It's down there at the Missoula Paddleheads Stadium, and Fusion Fight League has a great Facebook page that has links to get tickets. I appreciate Levi and his crew for always teaming up with us to help promote some stuff. You can also visit FusionFightLeague.com. AJ Haskins, the one of the two participants in the main event, the middleweight title fight going down Ogren Park at Allegiance Field on Saturday night, is our guest right now. He's fighting Nate Lowe. When it comes to your opponent, what do you know about your opponent, and how does that influence the way you're approaching this fight?
No difference, man. I know he's a pretty, explosive wrestler. I believe he's 3-0. And, for me, I try not to focus too much on my opponent, not just him, but just in general. Just continue to build myself, hone in on my skill sets, and continue to develop myself as a mixed martial artist. and then go in there and lock the cage and may the best man win. And that's been my strategy. The past 5 fights, 6 fights, whatever I've had. And yeah, man, I'm just excited again. Like I said, man, to show everybody, the stuff that I've been working on, man, and I've been working really hard. The past 3 months. Last fight was in February. And, yeah, man, I'm just excited to go out there and showcase my talent and my ability, man. And it should be action-packed, guys. It should be action-packed, man. This guy's an explosive wrestler. We should get in some great wrestling exchanges. And so, man, I'm just super excited, man. I'm super excited to get physical and put on a great show for everybody.
Well, very cool, and good job by you for evolving and staying competitive and getting into something new. And this is awesome for you. And best of luck on Saturday night. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, man, God bless you guys, man. Make sure you guys come out June 22nd, boys. Let's go. Appreciate you guys.
Fusion Fight League, fights under the lights at Ogren Park at Allegiance Field, 7 o'clock on Saturday night. Always fun to partner with the Fusion Fight Leagues. We appreciate all their continued support of us here at ESPN Radio. Hour 1 in the books, hour 2 coming at you. Justin Angle, the business angle, plus Rajeem Seabrook on Juneteenth and otherwise. A jam-packed hour number 2 coming your way. Keep it right here. It's ESPN Radio. Do you want to take your golf game to the next level? To be the best you can be on the links, knowing the course is essential. At Canyon River Golf Course, they have a brand new fleet of golf carts complete with the Shark Experience, a state-of-the-art GPS system that offers precise distance-to-pin measurements, hole flyovers, pro tips, and more. In addition, music and entertainment choices provide any golfer with all you need to thrive at Canyon River. Located in East Missoula, Canyon River offers a championship golf experience set on a beautiful, immaculately curated course. For more information, visit CanyonRiverGolfClub.com today. Wayne McElmurray knows what you can achieve through hard work as an athlete from a small town in Montana. The Troy native rose up to become an All-American safety for the Grizzlies on UM's 95 National Championship team before spending time playing in the NFL. McElmurray has also used those values in his work at McElmurray Homes. Since 2003, McElmurray Homes has helped contract and subcontract some of the Garden City's finest houses. McElmurray Homes is committed to offering quality custom service, quality products, and the best prices throughout any project. And McElmurray Homes is also a proud supporter of high school athletes around the state of Montana.
Dreaming of summer fun? Stop dreaming. Visit any Farmer State Bank location to speak with a consumer lender about making your summer dreams come true. Farmer State Bank offers a full range of consumer loans for vehicles, boats, campers, and more. Rates are competitive and there's never an application fee. You can even apply online at farmersebank.com. Bring on summer fun. Farmer State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. An equal housing lender and member FDIC.
What's up, Missoula? This is Junior Bergen from your Montana Grizzlies. Did you know for just $31 a month, you can get unlimited car washes at Dazzlers? I always take my Jeep to Dazzlers. It's the most efficient and most thorough car wash in the entire city of Missoula. Download the new Dazzlers app for as little as $31 a month. You can get unlimited car washes. And for $37 a month, you can get the best car wash Dazzlers has available. Treat your car like it deserves to be treated at Dazzlers Car Wash in Missoula. It's the most efficient and most thorough car wash in the entire city of Missoula.
What's better than Tag on the go? How about twice as much Tag? Taglieri Deli has been recognized as the best sandwiches in Montana by numerous publications, and now you can order online from 2 different Taglieri locations. Taglieri Deli in the Sawmill District is open and ready to make you the same delicious sandwiches you've come to expect. Order online to pick up at Tag's 2 locations, including its new location at 910 Wyoming Street in the Sawmill District. When you stop in, be sure to check out the Old World wine selection and other Italian delicacies. Taglieri Deli, now open in 2 locations in Missoula.
Tune in to Nuanez Now every Friday to catch up with Carolyn to get a little bit of a different view on sports.
They lost to Caitlin Clark in Iowa last year. That if that matchup happens again, there's just no way.
Hold on. Does this mean I get to wear my Cox hat?
You might.
Because I'm just rooting for the Cox at this point.
At least you made it to the end of the segment before you started saying swear words.
It's not a swear word. They're Gamecocks. It's their mascot. It's right on my hat.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
And she was lying in the grass, and she could hear the highway breathing, and she could see a nearby factory. She's making sure she's not dreaming.
Welcome back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. A little talking heads for you here on this Tuesday. Thanks so much for tuning in, whether you're watching on TV, SWX, or you're streaming on the ESPN MT app or 1029ESPN.com, or you're listening on 1029 ESPN Radio around Western Montana. Appreciate you for being here. Young Mazda has their 100th year anniversary celebration going on. June 20th, that's a couple days from now, through June 24th. When you buy any automobile from Young Automotive, you'll get 1 year of free gas. You'll spend $0 on maintenance for 5 years, and you'll spend $0 for 90 days when you finance a qualifying purchase through America First Credit Union. Now is the time to buy a car at the 100-year sale at Young Automotive Group. Visit youngautomotivegroup.com for more information and to check out inventory, or visit Young Mazda, 1776 Stevens Avenue, Missoula. Happy 100th anniversary to Young Mazda. Welcome back. Nuanez Now, hour number 2 coming at you. Missed anything in hour number 1, you can always find it on the Nuanez Now podcast, which is proudly presented by the M Store, located at the corner of Broadway and Higgins in Missoula. You can also shop online, montanamstore.com. And the Montana State Bookstore, your best place for blue and gold on game day or any other day. Shop online, msubookstore.com. Colter Nuanez in studio at Justin Engel. Record this a little earlier on a Tuesday. The hail made it hard to get around town. Were you driving while it was hailing?
A little bit, yeah.
This is ridiculous. It's supposed to be like the middle of summer.
Yeah, that sort of weather rarely speeds things up.
No, it does not. I was like trying to talk on the phone, and I had to hang up my conversation because it was so loud I couldn't even hear anything with it on the Bluetooth. Anyways,
That sounds really hard. Driving, talking on the phone.
Nobody's here to talk about the weather or my sales schedule. So thanks for being here, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. So we were talking before we got started. You're a East Coast guy. You're a Boston Celtics fan. Boston Celtics clinched a NBA record 18th championship last night, and they did it in resounding fashion. It was a dominant effort, certainly. I can see both sides of this. The Celtics were certainly the best team in the NBA this year from start to finish. There's no question about it. Also, you can see the other side where the Mavs just really sort of faded. I mean, Dallas did not put up that good of a fight. That was a little bit disappointing. This was a pretty boring series. I can't imagine the ratings were great because you had 4 blowouts in 5 games, and Celtics kind of just cruised. But anyways, I mean, you're a big Celtics guy, but you were saying that it's on one hand you thought this was exciting, but on the other hand you sort of left something to be desired. So just hash that out for us.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a handle on it myself. I mean, I grew up a huge Celtics fan, in the waning Larry Bird era, and then Reggie Lewis and his tragic death left a mark on me. I was a high school basketball player at the time when Reggie died.
Like, how wild is that Len Bias and Reggie Lewis both died?
Yeah, similar ailments, right?
Similar ailments as future Celtics.
Yeah. And so that, those sort of experiences sat with me, and, who knows how they translate into my feelings about the team today. But even that team in 2008, I think it was, with Pierce and Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett, those personalities were compelling. Yeah. And this current team, it's I like this guy, Jaylen Brown, and some of the other guys, but they just don't seem as compelling. It's almost like an AI-generated version of a basketball game I'm watching.
Justin Engel in studio with us. He's a professor of business at the University of Montana. And I've thought about this a lot because there's certain franchises in pro sports where the persona of the athlete and the pairing of that with the persona of the franchise is important.
Yeah.
I've often wondered if this is missing with the Celtics, because the Celtics in their current iteration are basically 2 guys from elite schools. I really do think that Jason Tatum being a Dookie and Jaylen Brown being a Cal Berkeley guy, it influences their personalities. They are not these brash, abrasive guys. They're just very steady. They don't talk a lot of smack. But, like Andrew and I were talking about yesterday, there's something in the NBA lexicon where we want you to be psychotically competitive like Michael Jordan was. But very few people are like that. And the ones that pretend to be like that, that's not necessarily good. But then we criticize Jason Tatum for having grace and not being like this abrasive, confrontational character. It's an interesting dynamic. But I also wonder, my brother and I were talking about this on the golf course. I do think that the things that are missing for the Celtics that would make them a more appealing team is they have a completely lopsided coach. I think Joe Missoula is one of the best defensive coaches in the entire world. and I think he's one of the most inept offensive coaches in the entire world. They get by offensively because they have 2 6'9" forwards that can create their own shot. It gets clunky, though, because how often do they run it to the end of the possession and then Jason Tatum will hit a fall-away 18-footer? It's not a good shot, but he makes it. I think that's probably part of why. Also, if you've been a Celtics fan for a long time, that means you were a fan of the 1980s Celtics, who were the greatest passing teams in the history of basketball, and that's why they were so fun to watch, because Larry Bird and Bill Walton are two of the best passing big guys the game's ever seen.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. I mean, I look at the personalities are compelling in some ways. Like, I think there's a lot of positives to say, and I generally like players that, you know, and I don't have the knowledge of the game. I can't break it down the same way you can. But just I like their style in that, yeah, they're not brash, they're not in your face, but they are gritty. And then I wonder, like, some of the plays, take Jaylen Brown, for example, like, he can go up and have one of those monstrous dunks like he had in game 2 or 3. I can't quite remember which game it was, but, like, you wonder, that just seems to turn on and off.
For sure.
And he's not.
That's the story of their whole team.
And yeah, I think that is the
game one. Like game one, the first 15 minutes, they were just eviscerating Dallas. They were up 33 points in the second quarter, and then they let Dallas come all the way back, and it was a 6-point game in the third quarter. That's the story of this Celtics. They're sort of a victim of how good they can be.
I think that's probably right. Like, they set this expectation so high, and I was watching the game last night, and they're up 20 points.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a series in the late third quarter where they just missed like 4 or 5 bunnies in a row. And I found myself like yelling at the television and like as emotionally involved as I would be in like a really tight game. And I'm thinking, well, gosh, they're up by 20 and, you know, that it's okay for them to miss a couple of these easy shots. It just is a weird viewing experience. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Justin Engel in studio with us here on Nuanez. Now, when you ask me, like, how do I know that Missoula has offensive deficiencies, what we're talking about is exactly it. Like, when you have a stretch where you can't get a bucket, a great offensive coach draws up a play. They don't do that. They sort of just go through the motions and let their guys make plays. But I think that's also what makes them frustrating, because when they do what they do defensively, they can crank it up to such a high level. They get all these stops in a row. Drew Holiday's a monster. I mean, he's just such a good defensive player. And then they go on these runs and they bury teams. But then it's like riding this roller coaster, because you just can't do that for the whole stretch of a game. It is a weird analysis, though, because even like you say, even if you think that you don't have like the intrinsic in-depth knowledge of the whys, everybody thinks this about the Celtics. Like, Bill Simmons has been a hardcore Celtics fan since day one. He will tell you straight up that this is the most frustrating Celtics team he's ever watched. And they just won the championship. I mean, this went 79-21 over the last 100 games of this season. And yet they're, like, we're sitting here criticizing them on the radio, even though they had, I think, the 5th best record in the history of an NBA champion.
Yeah, and then you mentioned their defense a few moments ago. They're suffocating, but they don't appear to be scary. Like, you take the Detroit Pistons, the Bad Boys, or even that team in like 2004, like, they were scary defensively.
That's right.
And you could see, as a fan, you could sort of sympathize with the team they were playing against, because you're like, wow, this is a really dominant defense. And the Celtics apparently have that kind of skill. Like, they have a 6'4" guy that can block 7-footers going for a dunk, and yet they don't exude that sort of that intimidation factor. And I was thinking about this too, and this can segue into another aspect of it. I think sometimes, like, the way these games are packaged and produced and consumed affects that too. Some of the storytelling around the personalities and how they're marketed by the teams and by the league and by the networks, I think, plays into this as well. So it's both an intersection of the game as it's being played on the court, and then how all the ancillary analysis and hype is portrayed as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that thing, because we'll get into some of the presentation in terms of the broad thing and what this means for the branding and sort of promotion of the NBA. But to finish that point about guys being on brand with franchises, they just don't really have like this quintessential Celtics guy.
Yeah.
Like the low-hanging fruit would be that the Celtics guys need to be white guys, but that's unfair though, because the greatest Celtic of all time is Bill Russell, and he's one of the great black players in the history of sport.
Yeah.
He's the greatest champion in the history of American team sports, and was a trailblazer when it comes to racial equality and all that sort of stuff. Kevin Garnett was also beloved in Boston. He was very on brand for the Celtics because he's a working class type of guy.
Yeah.
Talk about ferocious. Like, he is a ferocious, intimidating defender. All these different things. They don't really have a guy. And I think that's why last night, as I was texting you, the post game for all this was very awkward too. Because
Absolutely.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, there's still this debate. Who's better? And you could tell the ESPN people wanted it to be Jason Tatum. They go get him first. He was full of emotion, but it was just strange, and it was almost forced. And you have to just think, like, what does the ghost of David Stern think of all this, right? Because Jason Tatum is so different than all the other guys that have been sort of the face of the league. And this is a pivotal moment for the league, sort of getting led into a new generation with LeBron and Steph Curry and these guys like sort of on their way out.
Yeah, and then that almost seems like a bit of lazy framing by ESPN. Like,
sure, right.
The last, I mean, we're sort of, I don't know if we're at the end of the superstar era in the NBA, but the player empowerment era has been so dominant, and then trying to sort of extract from that these storylines of these individual players being, sort of the driving force behind a team's success. And the Celtics are kind of the opposite of that. They're a team in so many ways.
They are. That's
if they
exactly
could have had co-MVPs of the series and the season, they would.
For sure.
And rather than trying to force that into the paradigm of the dominant superstar, why not tell a story of team success and sort of try to change the framing such that you're actually celebrating the virtues of this team rather than trying to make it fit into something it's not.
I wonder if the branding and marketing behind this team would be different too if they had a different coach.
Yeah.
Joe Missoula he's an incredibly young guy.
And he's a bit of an accidental coach too.
Completely accidental, right? I mean, they went from Doc Rivers getting forced out to Brad Stevens saying, "I don't want to do this anymore, but I'll still work for you," to Ime Udoka looking like the next superstar coach of the. I mean, think about if Ime Udoka was just the head coach of this team, right?
Yeah.
Because he was the one that dragged these guys to the finals when they were young bucks. They didn't know what they were doing. And then Missoula just kind of, like you said, he just inherits it. There's a lot to criticize with him. He's a very strange guy. Like, his press conferences are weird. You just wonder, like, if Doc Rivers or Ime Udoka was the head coach of this team, would we think about them differently? I don't know. I think we would.
Potentially. I don't know. I mean, Missoula is a bit of an enigma in some ways. However, the job is not to interface with the press.
Sure. Right.
The job is to
win games,
produce wins on the basketball court.
I mean, and how can you
can't argue with the results.
I mean, they just went 47-4 at home. That was their home record.
And you got to think about it in the context of, like, if you do have two individuals that are competing for, or I don't, who knows if they're competing or not, but the media frames it as if they're competing to be the player on the team, and yet they can coexist peacefully. Right. And apparently, by all accounts, they seem to not only play really well together, but also, there isn't much reporting about bitterness behind the scenes, or like how long can these two coexist, or any of that drama that you would see. And you got to attribute some of that to Missoula. I mean, that's part of the job, is managing those egos.
There's no doubt about it. It's one of the biggest parts of the job as an NBA head coach. Justin Angle in studio with us. Okay, so this goes back around to a long-standing point or a long-standing conversation, rather, that we've had on this show, and that is that we basically had two eras in the NBA. There's been three eras, basically, in the modern era. You got the merger all the way then until David Stern takes over. Then you got the Jordan Bird Magic era, and then you got the post-Jordan era, and then you got this new Adam Silver era. David Stern wanted it to be about globalizing the game and maximizing superstars and making the 10 guys that are your biggest superstars the biggest stars in sport in the world. Now, partly because of the way that these guys are wired, there hasn't been sort of those standout 10 to 12 guys. There's certainly been some headliners, LeBron James and Steph Curry kind of being the leaders of the pack. But from a full longevity standpoint, which is the better way to go about doing this? Is superstar-driven, trying to find the next Magic Johnson, the way to go? Or is having a couple good players on every single team in the league and having way more equity, like, across the board?
I think it's really hard to answer that question.
It's really hard, right?
I mean, you think of the superstar era, and that was right at the beginning of, or it started in a world without social media, and then social media sort of started to come into it toward the end. And I do wonder, and this question's not a new one, but like, could Michael Jordan have survived in the social media era? I think that he was, and other players kind of in that genre were able to gain a share of attention and a level of stardom at a time when they also didn't have a camera in everybody's pocket following them around. So they're able to curate that persona with a little bit more mystery and a little bit more freedom.
That's right.
And now, whether it's attributable to personality dimensions or not, like take a guy like LeBron James, he's played his career in this era of social media, and you see a much more manicured persona,
for sure,
and he comes off as not genuine,
for sure,
as a result. And
then look at a guy like Kevin Durant, who has been genuine, but also sort of over the top, because he, when people criticize him on Twitter, he goes back at them. He's got burner accounts. Like, his sensitivity has sort of been a flaw of his. But you're right, it has impacted this generation of guys so much.
Yeah, so either you construct a personality that seems disingenuous, or you get too involved and people criticize you for that as like, oh, you're not really focused on basketball, you're focused on your Twitter haters. And, and then you couple that with players moving around from team to team, and this intersection, as you mentioned a few moments ago, of the persona of the player, does it match with the persona of the franchise?
Right.
And I do think you have a general dilution of the brand asset on a few different levels, the NBA level and then the individual franchise level as well.
For sure. I've thought about this so much, like the guy like Jordan, right? Because retrospectively, we remember Michael Jordan as this unimpeachable hero, this guy that was like beloved by everybody. Go ask New York Knicks fans from the mid-1990s how much they loved Michael Jordan. They did not love Michael Jordan. He's ripping their hearts out. So you had pockets of people where Jordan is the great villain, and then sort of this holistic attitude that he's like this unbreakable, untouchable hero. Now, like, our heroes, they have so many more. No, everybody's a polarizing hero. Or, you know what I mean? Even the biggest heroes are also villains to half of the sports watching population. This is so much accentuated in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think our memory of it changes over time.
True.
And we also can enjoy the hatred of those villains, right? Like, ask a New York fan, like, did they hate Michael Jordan? And yeah, the answer is probably yes. But also, did they love hating him? And the answer to that question is probably yes. Now, they probably would have preferred to win some of those series against him.
Sure.
But, just the sort of experiencing that moment in history is a positive memory in general.
You had some thoughts, too. Justin Angle in studio with us, the business angle here on Nuanez now, about just the overall presentation and production of this. I thought this is sort of interesting because, oftentimes we sort of broadly convince ourselves that athletes are getting nothing but better. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think in certain ways it's true, and in certain ways it's completely untrue. We also convince ourselves that technology is getting nothing but better. Again, certain ways it's true, certain ways it's not true. What did you think of just sort of the presentation of this for the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I think calling it a production value is a little too flat a comment. There's different aspects to it that I kind of was thinking about last night, and in some of the other games I've been watching. I saw this old archive reel. I think it was in the lead up to the broadcast of games, whatever game it was, of the conference finals where the Bulls, it was after Jordan had come back, the year after they lost to the Orlando Magic, and they were replaying them in the playoffs. And the lead up to that, you had this wonderful montage of video. You had this amazing dramatic voiceover from Marv Albert. And it just was a piece of content that you don't see anymore. And we are living through this era of there's so many forms of compelling content. There's and it makes me wonder, the TV product is almost it feels like it's constructed in a way that's designed to serve some of these other outlets. Like I was watching the halftime show yesterday, and I'm feeling like these characters on the stage are not so much having a conversation as they are trying to say something that's going to get clipped.
That's a 15-second.
And get merchandised either on the ESPN app or on Twitter or on TikTok or whatever. And yeah, it might be able to gain a large share and influence on those platforms. But what it rolls up into is a broadcast experience that is really disjointed. It just doesn't feel like you're watching actual television.
It's so disjointed. It's so invaluable to me, at least.
Yeah.
I've thought about this a lot because people say, everybody agrees that watches the NBA, the Inside the NBA is the greatest post-game show that's ever been invented in the NBA. And many would say it's the greatest sports television show in modern history. And I'm right there with it. But part of it's because of it's not produced.
Absolutely.
It's so natural, right?
It's a dialogue.
The formula that ESPN and some of these other networks have used, and we're on ESPN radio, so, gotta be careful, sort of, but not really, because the formula is just flawed. Like, to have a 20-minute halftime and you have, last night, the desk, you got 6 people up there. You got old journalist Michael Wilbon, medium-age journalist Stephen A. Smith, multiple current players, 1 former player, and 1 anchor. And the anchor just tees it up, and everybody gets their 80 seconds to scream and yell. There's no continuity between anything that anybody's saying, and it's often almost unwatchable, right?
It certainly felt unwatchable to me last night, and a missed opportunity too. I mean, there was no analysis. There was Stephen A. was just determined to yell about
screaming about Kyrie Irving,
the Mavs' effort, and a useful point.
It is.
Why not set it up for him to actually engage with Michael Wilbon, and the former player? I can't recall his name.
But Julius Randle was up there for some reason.
Yeah, Julius Randle was strangely looking at his notes, and
why is Julius Randle on the thing? Like, he's a current player that plays for the Knicks. Why is he involved?
It looks like they kind of grabbed him out of the crowd.
He's fine on TV, but it was like, why him? I don't get it.
He didn't even look dressed for the occasion.
No.
Like that's another piece. Like, there's always been sort of flamboyance and of diversity of outfits on these panels, but it kind of existed within a relatively predictable bounds. Now it just seems like these things are thrown together. And, maybe they just look at the ratings and know that people don't watch the halftime, and so that we're not going to put any effort into it. But that doesn't seem quite right either.
It doesn't. And I just always think about this first through me. What do I do?
Yeah.
I always watch Inside the NBA when they're on at halftime.
That's because it's them. The other guys. That's right. I mean, did you watch it last night?
I did not. I in fact, was cooking dinner while watching the game, and I turned it down because right after Stephen A. Smith screamed at me, I'm like, the baby doesn't need to hear Stephen A. Smith screaming. Like, what are we doing? So it is weird, though, that I've always thought this was an interesting thing when it comes to both sports TV production and also just sports in general. One of the easiest concepts in humanity is to copy success.
Yeah.
To take an idea and then make it into your own, but I take some of the baselines of it. But yet nobody copied the New England Patriots for 25 years. They just let them go to the Super Bowl 14 times and win, or 10 times or whatever, win 7 championships. Nobody copied the formula from a financial standpoint, from a structure and stability standpoint. It's crazy. I know you have to have Charles Barkley to be able to replicate the Inside the NBA, but it's still wild to me that no one's even tried.
It is odd.
It's so weird, right?
It is odd, and you got to sort of ask the question, well, why is that? Is it because we're living in an era where you sort of are taught in business education that you need to differentiate?
Right.
Maybe. I don't know if that, I think to your point, take a look at arguably the most successful company in the world, Apple. They're always second to market. Like, it's rarely they're rarely the first mover with an idea. They just sort of watch what happens, come in late, and do it better than anybody else, and in a really creative way. Whether it could be some combination of, there was only one Michael Jordan, there was only one Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Sure.
I don't know that Barkley's singular in terms of, and I don't want to attribute all the success of Inside the NBA to Barkley. It's the combination of all those guys together. And the other thing I think there is that show has a level of irreverence, and to be fair, like I think they cross the lines of what's sort of acceptable in the discourse right now, probably too frequently, yet those guys seem to get a bit of a hall pass because of the success they've had.
So true.
And that piece of it is hard to replicate.
That piece is indeed hard to replicate.
If you don't have that sort of social license to perform with that level of dialogue, I think it motivates producers to maybe button up a production too much.
Yes.
And so, maybe the degrees of freedom that others are operating with are just more narrow.
It's a good point. I mean, if you're talking about players that have been retired long enough to have clout on TV but have been retired for a short enough time to still be remembered as players, Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley are two of 10 guys that you could even choose, and then they're absolutely the two best on TV. You also got to give all the credit in the world to Ernie Johnson because he seems like this sort of aloof, oh my gosh, you can't be saying that again. But he's a brilliant orchestrator of all of it. I mean, he's the greatest ringleader in all of the studio shows because he knows exactly what he's doing. Like there's no, he knows it's going off the rails. He's going to sort of keep it on the rails, but so he deserves a ton of credit too. And then Kenny Smith's the perfect straight man. And so a lot of it too, you're right. It's not just that, okay, we can just steal this idea and copy it. Those guys also deserve a ton of credit because they're unique. They're like totally one of a kind in terms of their chemistry with each other.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, like, it sounds like Barkley just announced his retirement. It's the end of this media deal. The show, by all accounts, seems like it's going away, and maybe it's run its course. Like maybe the fact that we haven't seen and ESPN has a different design ethic in how they produce content, and sort of the debate, yelling at each other, coupled with breaking news model that seems to dominate how ESPN frames its coverage is just fundamentally different in many ways to inside the NBA. Although as I say that, like the college game day model has been successful for years with that chemistry.
Certainly.
So, it could come around. But I do think there's just different dynamics in the media space that make that, magic in a bottle harder to capture right now.
Last question for you. Justin Engel in studio with us here on Nuanez now. When it comes to what's next for the NBA then, it's been a fascinating last little while, right? Because it's been a minute now since LeBron James won a championship.
Yep.
You've had the true rise. I mean, we've had foreign international players in the NBA for 30 plus years, but this has been the true rise of them being truly some of the best players in the league, whether it's Giannis Antetokounmpo or Jokic or Doncic. I mean, those are three of the 5 or 6 best guys in the NBA. And it's sort of interesting which ones they're going to hitch their wagon to. And now you have this sort of true team in the Celtics, but they don't really have that dynamic personality. So if you're the NBA, like, where are you going from a marketing standpoint? Like, who do you hitch your wagon to for the near future as this transition keeps coming?
Yeah, I think.
Like, I just wonder if they were just begging for the Timberwolves to win the West so that they would have Anthony Edwards for another round.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards is a guy that grabs market share. Like, people pay attention, not because they like the Timberwolves, but because there's a guy who could just do something that you've not seen before.
Yes.
Now, you think, okay, what was the last team to really capture the zeitgeist? And that was the Golden State Warriors, right? And so did the Celtics have that? Well, if they were able to sort of, the thing that's been so frustrating about them that we talked about at the beginning of the segment has been their inconsistency. They're just not like a team that you fear because they show these signs of being incredibly just inept at times. Yet their dominance is more dominant than anybody around. So maybe, the next chapter is they can spin off a couple of championships, and this breakthrough win can sort of elevate their confidence to a level where they can sustain that level of play, and then we have a new era of a new dynasty and a rekindling of an old Celtics dynasty. I mean, that could be a narrative that I think would work well for the NBA.
I think it would too, especially if these guys can let this sort of be the monkey out the back, and then you reel off a couple more. It's Justin Engel in studio with us a little early here on this Tuesday on Nuanez now. Thanks for swinging by, man. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you as well.
It's time for the Montana Club Comfort Food and Game Day Drink Specials. Every Saturday and Sunday, the club's Grizzarita Huckleberry Margarita, Caesars, and Bloody Marys are only $8. Pair them with custom grilled prime grade Montana Club steaks or a tender prime rib sandwich. And don't forget the cheese fries. Full menu at MontanaClub.com. So get into the Montana Club today for an unrivaled flavor experience on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Attention fight fans. Fights Under the Lights is back at Ogren Park this Saturday night. 10 action-packed bouts of live MMA will go down starting at 7 p.m. The main event of the evening features former Oregon Duck linebacker A.J. Hopkins heading into enemy territory to take on the undefeated Nate Lowe of SBG Kalispell for the Fusion 185-pound title. Fights Under the Lights is going down this Saturday. Tickets will be available at the door or online through the Fusion Fight League Facebook page. This event is made possible by Air Force Special Warfare, Rhino Roofing, Americans for Prosperity, and the Mexican Moose.
I call myself a confident backseat driver. Mom, brakes, please.
Gotcha.
But I'm less confident in the economy.
Same here, buddy.
Thankfully, Les Schwab Tires helps make sure that our safety never takes a backseat, even when we're watching our wallets.
Roll into summer. Save up to $200 instantly on a wide selection of tires and wheels. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. Details at leschwab.com/sale.
Bees buzzing, flowers blooming, snow melting, and spring cleaning or updating? Liberty Electric is here for any and all of your electrical needs, no matter the season. Whether you're looking to upgrade your air conditioner for the summer, invest in a backup generator for those powerless nights due to storms, or need that lighting upgraded to LED, the professionals at Liberty Electric are ready to offer their services. Call 406-541-WIRE. That's 406-541-9473.
High up on the mountaintops of Montana grow the wild huckleberries that we use in our real huckleberry smoothies at Florence Coffee. Huckleberry smoothies are packed with the flavor of summer, and that makes them a customer favorite all year round. Stop by today for a real huckleberry smoothie at any of our Flowco locations or go to florencecoffeeco.com.
The best flavor under the big sky. Lawrence Coffee Company.
The Missoula City Band continues its tradition of free open-air concerts for over a century. Concerts take place every Wednesday evening at the Bonner Park Band Shelf, supported by the City of Missoula and talented local musicians. The Missoula City Band invites you to bring chairs and enjoy the show. The music is fun, the venue is cool and sublime, and the experience is part of what makes our town such a wonderful place to be in the summer. Missoula City Band's performances are every Wednesday night at Bonner Park throughout the summer. For more information, visit MissoulaCityBand.org.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
One streak was snapped and another carried on at the annual Montana-Wyoming All-Star Basketball Series over the weekend. Hello, I'm Andrew Houghton. The Montana boys had won 22 straight games against the All-Star team from Wyoming entering this year's series. But on Friday, Wyoming cruised to an 83-62 win in Gillette to snap that streak. On Saturday in Lockwood, the team from the Cowboy State proved it wasn't a fluke, winning a high-scoring game 94-85 to clinch its first sweep since 2011. Browning's Maurice Redhorn was the leading scorer for the Montana team in Friday's game with 12 points, while Frenchtown's Eli Quinn poured in 25 points in Saturday's game to lead the Treasure State. Montana still leads the all-time series 67-29. It was the opposite story in the girls' All-Star games, as Montana cruised to 2 wins to run its winning streak in the annual series to 15 games. Montana State commits Tegan Erickson of Saco Whitewater Hinsdale and Taylor Chirick of Roberts poured in 17 and 16 points respectively to lead the Montana All-Stars to a 90-68 victory on Friday. On Saturday, the team from the Treasure State was even more dominant, running away with a 76-35 win behind 14 points each from Chirick and Saco Whitewater Hinsdale's Paige Wasson. The Montana girls now lead the all-time series 41-13.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is presented by Selway Armory. 1, 2, 3. Nuanez now on ESPN Radio.
Nuanez now, ESPN Radio. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you're in the market for pretty much anything, but especially things like firearms, power tools, jewelry, speaker equipment, tech equipment, used video games, Cash One Pawn, the premier pawn shop in Western Montana, is your go-to spot. You can shop online. They have a new e-commerce extension of their website, which is so slick. Make cash1pawn.com part of your shopping habits. Pawn.com. Cash One Pawn, the premier pawn shop in Western Montana. Well, a bunch of fun guests today, but we have to squeeze this one in. He's going to be with you all day tomorrow as well. It'll be a little Hootang, a little Houghton and Seabrook tomorrow, so that'll be fun. Looking forward to listening myself. I have a commercial shoot that I'm doing, which is a fun deal. More on that in a little while, but we have some clients here at Missoula Broadcasting Company. We're also pairing those clients with some Grizz guys, so we got a fun deal that we're doing tomorrow. I'll let you know. You'll see it all over the place. You'll see it on social medias. You'll see it on this show. We'll have some audio for you here on the radio as well. So I appreciate Rajim for filling in, but he is in studio today as we record this on Tuesday early afternoon because he was just on the Trail 103.3. Very good job.
Thank you, sir.
You're a pro at live radio, as it were. I was looking for you because I saw you in here, and then I was listening to you on the Trail, and I came to come say, great job on the Trail. And I was like,
Thank you.
We actually do live radio here at Missoula Broadcasting Company. He's still on the radio. This isn't just getting played. But what you're listening to right now is getting played back just because I had to grab my guy before he bounced out. But big week, big days the next 2 days. Last week was Pride, the kickoff of Pride Month, and it was the Pride Parade in Missoula. And now this week, a celebration of Juneteenth, which is actually officially tomorrow, correct?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. June 19th.
And so the Montana Black Collective, which Rajim is a leader within, is doing a couple different things, including a film tonight at the Roxy. So if you can come down, you can not only watch an important movie, but you could also be a part of a discussion panel or listen in on a discussion panel, either way. And then tomorrow, a whole bunch of stuff for Juneteenth going on as well. So just give people sort of the rundown of all this.
Yeah, well, the official holiday is tomorrow. Even though this feels like a very Marty McFly Back to the Future moment because I know it's being recorded, but it'll be played later talking about things tomorrow, even though they're taking place tonight.
Sure.
So with all that being said in a really caffeinated manner, tomorrow will be the Juneteenth celebration, 11 o'clock at historical Fort Missoula, which we will be talking about Juneteenth and the historical importance of the holiday, but also giving historical credence to the Buffalo Soldier that is also very embedded in Montana history. So we're talking a little old history, a little history in the making, and then just Missoula-centric history in and of itself within the Black community that does exist here. And then tonight at the Roxy at 7 o'clock, the Black Collective, in conjunction with the Roxy, will be showing the film Do the Right Thing, celebrating its 35th year anniversary. And we will, like you said, Coulter, have a panel discussion around it and the importance of this film. Not only is the film in and of itself, but the fact that 35 years has transpired since this film, and we are still seeing very eerily similar images in real life, a la George Floyd. I've told many people many times that my stepfather has worked on this movie many years ago, and I was, as a young man, just surprised at what I saw on set. And then, fast forward 30 years as a grown father and an adult, seeing something very similar to the imagery that Spike portrayed in his movie. It was almost like a foreshadow. It was like he wrote the construct for it. So yeah, come on down to the Roxy and have a great conversation on culture, politics, people, community, and everything within.
It's relatable to sports, too. Jim Seabrook joining us here in studio because, as you and I always talk about, one of the greatest examples of multiculturalism, especially in communities that are small towns that maybe don't have a lot of, especially racial diversity like Missoula or Bozeman, is the examples of the sports teams, specifically the college sports teams. A lot of times you have the most sort of variety of people from different places, different backgrounds, all these different things coming together, and I think it's a great example of how you can work together. So that's what I always try to tie in for sports too, right? I mean, we see this across pro sports. Pro sports have become utterly fascinating because you don't just have Americans of a variety of different races. You have people from all over the world. Like right now, watching the U.S. Open on this weekend, I mean, you got golfers from India and Portugal and South Africa and just on down the line. So sometimes sports are the things that bring us together, not only just from our collective interest and fandom, but also just because the way teams work together.
Absolutely. You know, Andrew and I were talking about that in relation to other sports. Like when you look at baseball, just the heavy influence of Latin nations and Spanish-speaking countries and Asian countries. It's like it's this great ability to learn about other people as you're loving the sport that you're engaged in or observing, watching, coaching, or playing.
Rajim Seabrook,
hey,
in studio with us, the Montana Black Collective, hosting a couple different events leading up to the celebration of Juneteenth. So tonight, again, the film, 7 o'clock at the Roxy, and the discussion panel afterwards. And then tomorrow, a whole bunch of stuff going on. So let's just give people the sort of...
Yeah, just like I said before, the Juneteenth celebration at historical Fort Missoula. We will have guest speakers. We will have some historical reenactments. There will be some food provided. I forget by who, but it's free to the public.
Nice.
Many of our politicians will be there in support of it as community members and educators and kids and children of all ages, and hopefully get to see you down there, Coulter. And if not, people who know you.
A couple notes for you on the sports world before we let you go. Just two quick ones.
First got it, man.
First of all, I don't know if you saw the highlight. Rajiv's been coaching over at Sentinel for several years now. And last year, he coached the tight ends. Big Danny Sermon's one of the tight ends for Sentinel. He's going to the Grizz.
Yes, sir.
But he played in the Shrine game this last weekend, and they were using him as a Wildcat quarterback. I know you guys dabbled with him kind of as your quarterback because you guys got so busted up at quarterback last year.
Yeah.
But the big boy, I mean, he's 6'6", 250. He scored a 16-yard rushing.
He might be a little bit. I mean, not that he's just muscle.
Totally. But he scored a 16-yard rushing touchdown. I thought it was a typo at first, and then I realized, they're using him a Wildcat package. I just thought that was both funny and just awesome that Pat Duchesne was able to put the 6'6" kid in a little bit of an unorthodox position that was a huge advantage for the West.
Well, what a lot of people don't know is, like, when you look at Danny and people say tight end, it's like 6'6", 250. He looks like it. When he moved here from Washington, he came as a quarterback.
Sure, right.
And
there's a long lineage of Sermon quarterbacks.
And exactly going back to his cousin, his brother, his father.
His cousin, is that correct, or is that his brother?
Camden is his brother.
Is his brother? That's correct.
And
right.
he's got a brother at Washington, and then his other brother, I forget, was the quarterback at Northern Colorado.
Yeah, and he actually started his career at Washington. Jacob Sermon.
Yeah,
right.
Jacob, and then dad and grandpa, former Grizz themselves, just quarterbacks throughout the family. So
and just a lot of football. I mean, you got the Sermons that are coaching all over the place. David Sermon played at Montana years ago.
Yep.
I can never remember who's cousins and who's brothers, but basically, if your last name's Sermon and you're a boy, you are a great football player. Whether it's the generation from the 90s that were playing college ball or then the recent generations that have come through and played mostly either at Montana or Washington, but it's a pretty good pipeline that we've had set up. Okay, last thing for you.
Kick it.
What'd you think of the NBA Finals and the ending? A lackluster NBA Finals, but the Celtics are a pretty great team. I think that one thing that's so elusive for us with the Celtics is, like, we want Jason Tatum to be the superstar, and he is. He's so good, but he's like also has a hard time being definitively like the alpha of that team, and that's not really his fault, just because Drew Holiday's just wired like that more, and so's Jaylen Brown, and I mean, honestly, so's Derek White. I'm not trying to say Derek White's a superstar, but Derek White's like one of those underrated players in the league, man. I mean, I thought he was one of the key factors. So, I mean, you can sit here and say the Mavs rolled over and died. Kyrie no-showed. But at the end of the day, it's the coronation of the best team in the NBA. They were the preseason favorites. They ended up winning 79 games during this regular season and playoff run. I think they ended up going, let's do the math real quick. I think they went like 43-4 at home. So, I mean, utterly dominant across the board. So, I mean, it's hard to hate on the Celtics the day after they hang another banner.
I'm a Knicks fan, so I get to honestly hate them.
No doubt.
Any day of the week, okay? It was cool to see history be made. 18th title. I'm not sure that will ever happen in the NBA again.
Right, unless the Lakers win another one. And that's not happening anytime soon.
Like I said, ain't happening anytime soon, unless you're playing, 2K25 or 2K4. I was glad that the gentleman sweep didn't happen. I'm glad that it just didn't happen in 4. I'm glad that they got at least one gut punch in with a win. Boston was just loaded, man. Loaded, and I would dare say rested. Like, they were waiting for things to happen. They had time to kind of study and analyze and further in depth, and it showed in how they played. I like what you said about Tatum. He's a guy, but he's not the dude. And I think that we always want to appoint an alpha because of how we live in our society.
We were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah. Like, it's okay to not have
wants the alpha to be like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and those guys are like spectacular for the way that they were, but it's also a relatively unhealthy way to be. I mean, these guys are like psychotically competitive. That's not actually that good of a thing unless you can channel it into being one of the 5 best basketball players ever.
Yeah, like when you really like watch Michael and watch Kobe and see how they treat people, like they were phenomenal basketball players. They weren't the coolest dudes.
I mean, look at Tiger Woods, man. Tiger Woods is a sports genius, but like, how's it worked out for his life? Like, he's got all the trophies. He goes home by himself every day. Like, it's not necessarily that good. So, I sometimes I think we want everybody to be like everybody else. And Tatum, he is what he is. I was thinking about this the other night. The other thing that with Tatum is that he became as good as he is right now 5 years ago, and he hasn't gotten much better. But it's hard to be much better than first team All NBA, right? And so we kind of just got used to it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think sometimes in the new age, too, where people are victims of their own success. Like the narrative around the Celtics team when they made the finals 4 or 5 years ago was, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are 22 years old. These guys are going to win 1 million rings. And then they went to the finals and lost multiple times. So now you're getting judged by your failure instead of your success. Well, now they have their success. Now they can build upon that success. So it could be a launching point.
My whole thing is Jason Tatum doesn't care.
That's right.
We want that for Jason. We as fans want that for athletes. That's what we want. Rarely do we know what they want. He's comfortable in the role that he's in. You know what he's doing right now? He just woke up to a nasty beer-soaked trophy laying on his pillow right next to him.
Totally.
And you know what he's not thinking about? What everyone else is talking about.
At least I hope not. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, Rajiv Seabrook. Go hang out with the Montana Black Collective tonight and tomorrow. Juneteenth tomorrow, but tonight at the Roxy. An important film, and it should be an inspiring discussion. And then tomorrow all day at Fort Missoula, hanging out and celebrating for a day worth remembering. So thanks for swinging by and letting people know.
Thank you. Gracias, mi hermano.
Nuanez now, ESPN Radio. More on the other side. Booking a tee time at the premier golf course in western Montana has never been easier. You can book a tee time and pay ahead of your round online anytime you want to play Canyon River Golf Club. And while you're at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com, you can check out all the other awesome stuff that Canyon River has to offer. Canyon River Golf Club is Montana's preeminent golf community, offering picturesque views, a challenging track in pristine condition, and second-to-none customer service. Visit CanyonRiverGolfClub.com today to book your tee time.
Hey, it's Lindsay from The Stone. It's finally spring, and we're launching our new cocktail menu, filled with your old favorites, like the Irish Mule, with muddled limes, Jameson Irish whiskey, and ginger beer. Come have a cocktail and check out our new pool table, or bring the family and enjoy our famous fish and chips or Irish egg rolls. Happy hour is daily from 3 to 6 with great specials. The Stone, just a stone's throw away on North Reserve.
Get ready, Montana. Place bets on your favorite teams and games, both collegiate and professional, with Sportsbet Montana. With over 500 locations statewide, it's never been easier to get in on the action. Choose from spreads, money lines, parlays, and more. Excitement? You bet. Action? You bet. Winning? You bet. Visit sportsbetmontana.com or download the app now. Sportsbet Montana, Montana's exclusive sportsbook.
Do you get your car washed more than once a month? Of course you do, because you treat your car like it deserves to be treated. If you love having a clean car, you need an unlimited car wash package from Dazzlers. For $37 a month, you can get the most deluxe, thorough, efficient car wash anywhere in the city of Missoula. Basically, after your second car wash of the month, the rest are free. Treat your car like it deserves to be treated and save money while doing it at Dazzlers Car Wash of Missoula. Dazzlers Car Wash located on Radio Way off of North Reserve in the Garden City. Fundraising is not always a popular word. Then you throw in some parents who don't really know what to do, it can become really stressful. Vertical Raise can do hands-on implementation with any high school sports team to maximize your fundraising efforts. Peter Hamill is an expert in making the process easy and ensuring your team gets the biggest check possible so that your season can go smoothly. The online fundraising abilities of Vertical Raise can help provide opportunities for family and friends of your kids to support them from afar. Not everybody can come watch a game, but plenty can contribute to a great cause. To find out how Vertical Raise can maximize your money, visit verticalraise.com.
Nuanez now on ESPN Radio with special guest Rajiv Seabrook.
when it comes to dollar and cents. And now NIL deals, it's a business, and people just have to recognize that. These were their choices considering their opportunities. It's a job for them. If you don't like the boss that you work for, what do? You look for a new job while you're still working, and that's exactly what these young ones have done.
Catch Regime Seabrook once a week on Nuanez Now, 4 to 6 p.m. on ESPN 1029 Missoula.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
What's up, Montana? Welcome back. 102.9 ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana and the ESPN at MT app. We're also back up on YouTube. You can search for us, 102.9 ESPN, if you want the live feed of the studio. Nobody with you in studio for this last segment of Nuanez Now on your Tuesday, because Colter Nuanez had to jet a couple minutes early. I'm Andrew Houghton, sitting behind the glass to bring you home here. It's been a great show. Remember, if you miss anything in Nuanez Now, you can always find it on the Nuanez Now podcast. Nuanez Now podcast brought to you by the M Store, as well as the MSU bookstore, and you can find that on any of your favorite podcast hosting platforms. Just search Nuanez Now. Talked a little NBA Finals to get the show started. Boston Celtics, the season's over. Their work is done. Hopefully they're enjoying the NBA championship, and now begins the work of, for Sports Talk Radio guys, determining what their place in history is. So myself and Colter Nuanez talked a little bit about that to kick off the show. We also had great interviews with a pair of mixed martial artists, Nate Lowe, as well as AJ Hotchkins, kind enough to give us some of their time. Those two guys will be facing each other in the main event of Fusion Fight League's Fights Under the Lights. Fights Under the Lights, Saturday night at the Missoula Paddlehead Stadium right here in downtown Missoula. There'll be a great evening, great fight card. Those two guys in a 185-pound main event. You can still get tickets for that event, by the way, by going to the Fusion Fight League's Facebook page. Second hour, Justin Engel, the business angle. Always love having Justin in studio to break down the intersection of business and sports, and of course plenty to talk about with the NBA Finals and what that means for sort of the marketing direction that the league might go in. And we also just finished hearing from Rajim Seabrook. Rajim Seabrook will be back in with me tomorrow, so tomorrow will be our last Nuanez Now episode this week. So we got a lot to pack in tomorrow, but then we'll be off Thursday and Friday. Back with you, of course, next Monday. And tomorrow, Colter Nuanez out of the studio, but I'll be here, and Rajim Seabrook will be in with me for at least the first hour. Probably going to talk a little bit more about the NBA Finals. I know we talk about it a lot. Well, I love the NBA. Colter loves the NBA. Rajim loves the NBA, so we're going to talk about it. But sort of hope to wrap up the NBA Finals talk and what we think about this Boston Celtics team that wrapped up by the numbers, one of the most dominating seasons in recent NBA history. Tomorrow, might also talk a little bit of NFL, keep going on the over-unders for this season, and we might have some news as well. We might talk a little Olympics. Catherine Burkhoff, the Missoula native, going for her Olympic place in the U.S. swim trials tonight. In fact, I think that session going to kick off right as we get off the air, going for her Olympic place in the 100-meter backstroke. So we'll have that update for you tomorrow as well. And in the second hour, might have another series to break down Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers, Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals tonight, 6 p.m. in fact. So that'll start right as we get off the air too. Whether the Oilers win to extend it or the Panthers wrap it up, Mike Anderson of Grizz Hockey will be on the phone with me to get the second hour kicked off tomorrow. That should be a great discussion. We'll see. I hope Edmonton can keep it going because NBA Finals is over. NHL is the last one we got going before it's just summer baseball. And I love baseball, but feels like the last big thing ends when the Stanley Cup Finals end. And then speaking of baseball, we'll also have Jeff Safford coming on with me tomorrow as well to talk a little Missoula Paddleheads, talk a little MLB. Jeff Safford will be joining you live from Billings in just a couple minutes. Missoula Paddleheads taking on the Billings Mustangs. That broadcast will get started at 6:15, so keep it tuned to 102.9 ESPN. And this has been Nuanez Now. Thanks for listening.
Bees buzzing, flowers blooming, snow melting, and spring cleaning or updating? Liberty Electric is here for any and all of your electrical needs, no matter the season. Whether you're looking to upgrade your air conditioner for the summer, invest in a backup generator for those powerless nights due to storms, or need that lighting upgraded to LED, the professionals at Liberty Electric are ready to offer their services. Call 406-541-WIRE. That's 406-541-9473.
Affordable family fun entertainment. The Missoula Paddleheads are back in action with bigger promotions at a low price for the entire family. Baseball equals summer. Come enjoy a night under the lights at Oakland Park at Allegiance Fields. First pitch for Tuesday through Thursday and Saturday games is scheduled for 7:05 with gates opening at 6. All Friday home gates will open at 5:30 and first pitch is at 7:05. Sunday matinee games will be at 2:05 with gates opening at 1. Tickets and more at GoPaddleheads.com.
It's time for the Montana Club Comfort Food and Game Day Drink Specials. Every Saturday and Sunday, the club's Grizzarita Huckleberry Margarita, Caesars, and Bloody Marys are only $8. Pair them with custom grilled prime grade Montana Club steaks or a tender prime rib sandwich. And don't forget the cheese fries.